I appreciate you having me. So I'm Steve White, and I started American Credit 22 years ago. Hard to believe it was 22 years, but my daughter was two, and she's turning 25 now. So it's true, 22 years. Prior to that, I was a finance manager at a Cadillac dealership. So I started the company basically as a hobby on the side. I didn't think it would be a full-blown company after this many years, but at first my intention was just to send clients that wanted to get their credit fixed from the dealership to myself to help them with their credit. And I had one rep working for me at the time, and he was doing so well reaching out to mortgage offices in the town. And this was a little town in Northern California called Redding. So it was a small town up there. And he ended up getting so busy I had to quit and jump over there to be there with him to help keep up. And I'll share a picture of our office in Los Angeles. Some of you might have seen us there. I don't know if it's showing up on your end. Do you see that? Is that showing up? Can you guys see it?
Oh, that's your LA?
Yeah, that's our LA office. I don't know if you saw it there on Wilshire in Santa Monica. So we grew, we got to the point where we were pretty, pretty, pretty big for the Los Angeles area, pretty small when you take into consideration the whole country. But like Zane was mentioning, using the right approach to credit repair is the real trick to having success with credit repair. A lot of companies that are fixing your credit are just sending out what's called a dispute letter. And many of you have probably heard of disputing stuff. What a dispute letter is basically you, I don't know how to turn it off. Basically, when you write a dispute letter, that's you writing a letter to the credit bureaus, hoping the creditor doesn't respond and verify that account. And so it's such an old approach. It's been around for 40 years that most of the creditors on your credit are used to people using that approach to game the system. And so nowadays, if you want to really have success with credit repair, it takes a more aggressive approach to getting these items deleted. And so instead of writing a letter to the credit bureaus, which is something they're used to seeing, we actually go to each creditor and we threaten the creditor with a lawsuit on behalf of the borrower. So we go to the creditor, and on each negative item that's on that client's report, we're demanding the creditor provide documented proof of three things. So they have to prove the client had an account. They have to prove the negative action they reported really happened, and they have to prove they followed the law, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, back when they reported it. So if you missed a payment on your home loan, or you had a car you repoed, or a charged off credit card, all of that information has to be reported to the credit bureaus according to the law. And if it isn't reported correctly, or they don't verify it in the correct amount of time, which they get 45 days to do, the item has to be deleted by the credit bureaus. So what we do specifically is we send a copy of that law, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, from the client directly to the creditor, usually certified, so it goes to their legal department. And then we attach a screenshot of the portion of that law that tells the creditor what they have to pay the client for mistakes they report. And you can Google this, just Google FCRA violations, and you'll see the mistakes I'm talking about. But each time the creditor reports information to the credit bureaus and it doesn't match each bureau exactly, they trigger a fine that the creditor owes the client. And it's a pretty hefty fine. It's between $500 up to $5,000 per mistake. And an average account has somewhere between 5 and 10 mistakes on it. And so we're using those mistakes as leverage to get that creditor to delete the negative item they reported. So if you have a client or you have a late payment on your credit, let's say it happened last year, May. We go to that creditor, send them a 90-page packet from you. And in that packet is, like I said, a copy of the law, a screenshot of the portion of the law that tells them about that fine I mentioned. Then we screenshot your actual account and we highlight all the little mistakes we see they reported. And then we write them a letter. So we go to the creditor first and come at them with this threat of legal action. The letter says, look, I know what my rights are. Here's a copy of the law for proof. It says here you reported me late last May, last year. Prove I have an account with you. Prove I was late last year. More importantly, prove you followed this law and protected my rights when you reported it, or I can sue you. That's what I plan on doing. And then we say, by the way, here's some mistakes I see. Prove these aren't mistakes. And we highlight all the little mistakes we see. And we show the creditor that the client not only knows what their rights are, but they know what the creditor owes them for these little mistakes they reported. Once the creditor sees the client is a legal threat, someone that knows their rights, they take a step back, and not always, but most of the time, they don't verify the account with the bureaus. And not verifying the account with the bureaus causes the credit bureaus to have to delete the item. I don't know if I told you this last time we talked, but you can Google, if you guys are in front of your computer, I'm going to give you some keywords to search for. Search for Equifax 18.6 million.
You want my account number?
And Portland, Oregon. So I put those keywords in the chat. If you Google those three keywords, just copy, paste that in Google and then search, what you'll see is a court case that came up about 8 years ago where a lady had a $200 collection on her credit. And she wrote a letter to the credit bureaus like you're supposed to do. And TransUnion and Experian removed it immediately because it wasn't hers. It was a collection that wasn't hers. And Equifax didn't remove it. And she ended up going round and round with them for 2 years trying to get this removed. And she was trying to co-sign for her disabled brother so you can understand the story behind it. And the state Supreme Court of Oregon caught wind of this case and forced Equifax to pay her an $18.6 million settlement for not removing an account that wasn't verified as accurate. So that's what I'm getting at. So when the creditor doesn't verify the account with the bureaus have an obligation to delete that account. And if they don't, there's no limit to how much money you can get from the bureaus. You're limited to 5,000 up to 500 up to 5,000 per mistake with the creditor. But when it comes to the bureaus, there's no limit to how much you can get them to pay. So I like to spotlight that case because it really shows people how powerful the Fair Credit Reporting Act is and how the creditors don't want the credit bureaus don't want anything to do with an account on your credit that's not verified as accurate. So what we do, just to reiterate it again, is we go to the creditor first, threaten them with a lawsuit, and we're demanding they provide proof they reported this information correctly. And then if they don't respond to the bureaus have to delete it. So that threat of legal action is the key difference in our approach and most of the companies out there. And I like Zane recommended, I recommend clients give us a call or do a free credit analysis once every 6 months, once a year, just to keep an eye on your credit to make sure things haven't popped up that aren't yours that you might not be aware of. It's good to have credit monitoring in place. There's lots of places you can get your monitoring nowadays. Try to stay away from Credit Karma. Credit Karma is one that I recommend people against. Credit Karma sells your data to third parties for profit. And
Oh,
so a lot of people don't realize that because you're getting a free service and you think, oh, it's free, it's great. It's not as great as you think because it's an older version of your credit. It's not really accurate. And they're selling your data behind the scenes for profit. So you end up getting a lot of junk email or you might be getting a lot of sales calls. This is where you could be getting those calls from. A good service to monitor your credit. Identity IQ is one that we recommend. Smart Credit's another one. MyFICO.com, you've probably heard of them.
mm,
LifeLock is a good way. And when it comes to protecting your credit, if you have really good credit, there's two ways to protect it. You can use what's called a fraud alert, which is something you could do directly through the bureaus. That puts a 90-day alert on your credit. So if you think your identity's been compromised, put a fraud alert on it. What that does is it alerts anybody that's pulling your credit to verify two forms of ID. So they won't just let somebody pull your credit without scrutinizing their ID, making sure that's really you. A more secure version of protecting it is using a security freeze. You can actually freeze your credit. Freezing your credit makes it so it's impossible to pull your credit. Even you couldn't pull your credit, which means if you went to a car lot today and forgot to unfreeze it, the car lot wouldn't be able to pull your credit until you unfroze it. That's the best way to protect it. So the freeze is the best way, but you got to remember to unfreeze it when you want to use it. And um, and that's it. There's one more tip I'll share with you. It's a free one. It's called optoutprescreen.com. I'll put that in the chat too. .com. This is a free one I tell everybody about. Optoutprescreen.com is a way to take your name off of the list where creditors are looking at your credit right now. So every one of us should be opted out if you haven't done it yet. Because everybody is automatically default opted in. And when you're opted in, there's two things that happen. You're available or you're visible to all the creditors out there, so they're able to look at your full credit report without you knowing. Actually, the creditors you've had in the past. So anybody you've had credit with, anybody that's pulled your credit, if you're opted in, they can see your full credit report and they look every 2 to 3 months. It also stops the credit bureaus from selling your data to third parties. So similar to Credit Karma, how they sell your information, the credit bureaus also sell your information for profit. So they're just for-profit corporations, same as most companies like Credit Karma. They're just a for-profit corporation. And opting out takes away that access they have. So you go to that website, opt out pre-screen, and you want to select the 5-year option. and then you just put in your information and that opts you out for 5 years. You just got to remember to do it every 5 years. If you forget, the system will opt you back in and won't tell you.